Guys, it is good to see you. It's Ryan here with DP Marketing.Services, author on the book on digital marketing for plumbing and HVAC contractors, also the host of Blue Collar CEO. Hope you're doing good. I know you're busy, so thanks for taking the time to stop by. Hey, coming at your video, it's a little bit outside of our lane because typically if you've watched our channel for long, we work with plumbing, HVAC, electrical companies. We help them grow their business by getting more leads, dial in their internet marketing, and help them really scale their business. And so we try to keep like a lot of tips and tricks on this channel for you that you can just get at whenever you need them. But sometimes it's good to look at other industries and other businesses to gain insights for how you can manage your own business. And for a lot of people, and you're probably like this too, right? If you're trying to grow your plumbing HVAC, if you're trying to grow your electrical company, you're probably wanting the most surefire way to do that. You want to you don't want to gamble. You probably have a limited budget. You want to say, hey, I need to know a surefire way that I can really scale and make this business take off. The problem is most of the time, we don't get the luxury of not making mistakes or not taking some risk. And in fact, if you're working for yourself right now, you probably took a risk at one point in time, hanging a shingle and getting your own truck and going out and running calls on your own. And you probably remember how crazy anxious you felt in the process. Granted, maybe you're there right now, right? But it's sometimes fun to look at other companies that we usually don't associate with failure, and to realize that in a lot of ways, failure is part of the process. And when you go through failure enough times, you actually learn the lessons that help you discover something that's really magical. So for instance, I'm going to, I'll share a tab here. One of the ones I like to talk about and think a lot sometimes is McDonald's. McDonald's is so interesting to me because they are obviously a massive company. A lot of people know who they are. But a lot of people probably don't realize that they fail a lot. And you may or may not recognize this particular burger here that's on my screen. This guy, it's called the Arch Deluxe. You maybe remember it. This was a burger that came on in 1996. Bacon, lettuce, tomato, cheese, onions, ketchup, and secret sauce, if you remember. So here's the thing. McDonald's was so pumped about this burger, and you probably remember this. They spent $200 million to get this hamburger out in front of people. $200 million, right? They even had a couple of rappers right after it was released, like young rappers, like boom, 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 not like paper rappers for burgers. They even had these two guys come up and do something that would try to get on people's radar. It didn't work. It didn't win fans. So McDonald's in the year 2000, finally yanked it. It briefly came back in 2018, but not really for long. But this is a $200 million mistake that McDonald's took 4 years to kind of watch the whole dumpster's fire burn and take over. It was kind of crazy, but we don't think about McDonald's making mistakes like that, right? Or here's another one. This picture is kind of crappy, but maybe this looks familiar to you, right? This is going to be the Mighty Wings. These are on the menu back in 2003, if you remember that. And they taken off in 2003. Basically, McDonald's were so convinced that they were going to have a massive success in their hand with these wings that they stocked up on 50 million pounds of product. 50 million pounds of product. Imagine going to a parts supplier and be like, I need all this product or all this material because I'm going to sell so much of this thing, whatever. McDonald's did that. They were so bought in that they were going to sell this much that they actually had $50 million of this on hand. They didn't sell. These wings didn't go. They had about 10 million pounds of leftover wings in 2013 that they had to get rid of. Part of it was just the pricing. If you know much about the chicken industry, it's surprisingly expensive. And the flavor profile of them didn't take off. Point being, they invested millions of dollars on this product and it really never took off. It was one of those that just kind of flopped. But there's another one that maybe you do remember that was another experiment that took off and actually had success. And that would be the Happy Meal. Now, here's what's interesting about the Happy Meal. The Happy Meal started because the guy responsible for this particular product He was watching his son at the breakfast table in the morning, just reading the box that his cereal came in, right? Just kind of, his son was just like eating his breakfast cereal, reading the back of the box, like all the cartoons and the maze and stuff. And he's like, you know what? Kids should probably have something fun to look forward to also. So they invented this Happy Meal. Before the Happy Meal, people don't often remember, McDonald's wasn't the most kid-oriented place. It was a little bit more for grown-ups, or for families, perhaps. It wasn't something that your kids were excited about. In 1979, when they invented the Happy Meal and started introducing it to different markets, that changed everything. For the first time, kids now were actually being the primary audience, and they were suckering their parents into going. So McDonald's did two things. This is a technique, by the way, called pester power. Pester power, because the kids were getting marketed to. They were getting this really cool toy, and McDonald's went to the effort of like licensing really cool products. Like there was Fraggle Rock, there was Ninja Turtles, there's Star Wars, like really cool toys back when these things were first introduced. And it was like, kids, come get your Happy Meal, come get your toy, right? And kids would bring their parents just to complete the collection. They had to get all the Fraggle Rock or all the My Little Pony or all the Star Wars characters. And you probably remember what some of these characters look like if you're old enough. But kids would be responsible for bringing their parents. But it created another thing too, because as these kids grow up, they become their own customer base as soon as they're old enough to drive and pay McDonald's money. So McDonald's used a thing called pester power, which isn't going after the people with the money. It's going after the people who influence the people with the money. It's kind of like a zigzag. But this is a totally just one of several gambles that McDonald's did throughout its history, that this one thing makes them a crap ton of money. I think I saw one day that they sold like over 1 million Happy Meals a day. Like a day. It's just this massive sort of product line for them now. And that number is probably way grossly underquoted. Point being, not everything in business is without risk, and not everything in business is a sure shot. McDonald's sucked when they came and making wings. And you might think, well, look, they're the biggest planet, or one of the biggest companies on the planet. Sure, they're going to succeed at everything they do, but they don't. But also you might say they're one of the biggest company on the planet. They can afford to bleed out and do some of this. And it's true that the numbers that they're talking about are massive, but it doesn't change the fact that you still have to take risk. In business, you still have to try to innovate. You still have to try to push yourself forward. And sometimes the best reward comes from not knowing what's on the other side. The companies that are disrupting the market, and you're going to think about Apple, you're going to think about Tesla, the ones that do something no one else has done before took a massive risk. And because of that, they got massive payouts at the end. The companies who don't like taking risks, who don't like taking chances, those are the ones who struggle to keep up. And over time, they either close or they get acquired by another company. But I'm curious to hear from you. Obviously, you're trying to grow your business. Sometimes looking at other companies is a helpful way for us to realize what we should expect when we're trying to grow. And in this case, failure can be good, but when you hit a jackpot, it will absolutely change the fundamentals of your business. So I'm curious to hear from you. How do you innovate? What risk do you take? What risk do you take that hasn't come through? Leave a comment below. And look, if you're watching it and made it this far, one, thank you. But remember, just because you tried and failed doesn't mean that you're a failure, right? That's part of the process. Keep going, keep innovating, keep trying new things. And I want to see you come back next time. Leave a comment. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. We'll see you.